Hi, I'm Michelle.
Hi, I'm Laura.
Today we're talking about all things leadership, and it's a bit of a soft spot for Laura now because both of us really love this topic. And this conversation was triggered by a client who came to us who had just gone into a leadership role, and we had a very interesting chat. So if you just want to frame it, Laura, in terms of
he came to us, he'd been put into a leadership role. There wasn't a lot of internal resources or a training program in his current company, nor was there a formal sort of development. So I think he came to us, and I think there's a number of elements to that. Where he was coming from was he had conflict or difficult conversations that he needed to address, and needed some sort of framework and practice about how to go about doing those in the appropriate way. I think he also was transitioning from working in a group and sort of a friendship group, and then moving into a leader and a manager where you might need to bring up certain situations or just how you position yourself in that transition.
It's like going from friend to boss.
Yeah.
On the one side, but then also how you manage your relationship with your management team, who are now your management team colleagues. And I know that he in particular said that he was so holding back on giving new ideas because he didn't want to look like the new kid on the block who had all the answers, kind of thing. So I think that's a difficult spot. So yeah, we're talking about conflict, we're talking about transitioning. What else did he say? Oh, I think that the other thing that he was saying also is that he just doesn't know yet what kind of management style he wants to develop. Like, who does he want to be? What kind of person does he want to be? So let's talk about what we said to him and the advice that we gave him.
Look, I think it's not like you turn around overnight and you've transitioned into this new person. So I think just also saying, look, that's going to take some time to get there. But he came to talk to us in particular about the leadership development program that we have, and I think that program sort of goes through those frameworks and then tools that you can use. So some of the things we were talking about was looking at internal resources that you do have in your current company, any sort of mentor, whether that's internal or external, if there's any HR support that can give you advice. But a lot of it to me is that development path that you're going on. You're looking at people and you're saying, what are the values that are important to me as a leader? How do they fit in with the values of the company? How do I want to tackle things? What's my style? Can I see people where I can sort of emulate their style, and that sort of gives me a real confidence? And it's just really thinking through those things and working to feel comfortable. And then you develop as you go.
I think for me, and this is the kind of path that we're working on with him now, is to say that there is definitely value in looking at, like you said, the external resources. There are so many options, there are so many books and so many people who have written things on leadership, and I think there's value to that. So I know that with him we're going to go through that path to look at the big picture and then start narrowing down the things that he likes and he feels comfortable with. But I think that self-study is really important. And with the mentorship, where I found when I went into leadership, what really helped me is that I would go into a situation, and you can't anticipate everything, right? These things happen all day long. But go into a situation where you come out of it and you think, oh, I just know I didn't handle that well, and to have somebody to just go and bounce that off, and they go, because you make that mistake once, then they go and sit down and go, okay, let's look at what happened, and you get so much learning out of that situation. And then also, and I just said you can't anticipate everything, but there are situations where you really need to plan.
Absolutely.
And look at your wording and how, and look at the individual that you're working with. And I think that's such a fine line, because when people get academic information, they tend to just take that information and pass it on to whoever they're leading. And I think leadership is a sensitivity, and it's about having the understanding, the empathy for the person on the other side of the table, and then adapting what you know. And that to me was also valuable, that I could sit with somebody and go, okay, who am I going to be talking to? What is the issue? How do we go about it? And then literally go through that thought and planning process so that you have the best outcome possible. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to teach him, which I think he'll really benefit from, because conflict in a way is all that kind of thing. You know, it's a tough situation, it's difficult, and I think if you understand who you're talking to, and if you understand what it is that you want to resolve in that situation, it gives you a much better outcome than just flying in there.
Well,
and
people
going
tend
on,
to either go a bit too empathetic,
yes,
or a bit too,
yeah.
and it's you know, you need to know how to hold your boundaries, but also to be working in the best interest of that person and to work with them to a conclusion that you both want.
God, we can talk about this for hours because we love that spot. and I also think the other thing I wanted to say about leadership is, you know, when we transition people from them working as a really good team member and them being high achievers, because that's traditionally where your leaders come from. They are very good at what they do in their job, right? And I think it's such an important guidance to get when you go into leadership, because you are either going to hit a sweet spot and those people become amazing leaders, and we've seen them, so many of them, or alternatively, they have a bad experience and then go, I'm not cut out for this. And you know, we can talk about so many people that happened to, where we said to them, nah, let's clear the slate and let's start with that development process with you. And then they started understanding, first of all, what their value is, how they wanted to transfer it. And I think the point where it happens is where they, because they're high achievers and because they're good at what they do, they have a self-expectation and an external expectation that it's just going to come to them. And that's why I love what you said, that it's a process and a learning that you need to go through. You can't just transition and say, right, all of a sudden now I've got the buzzwords, so let's get going. It's trial and error. Yeah. I think if you look at the leaders we developed, and I was very fortunate, as you know, Laura and I worked with each other for 12 years in a company, and we developed a lot of people and a lot of